Hey there, internet fans. Ryan Perry here, Simple Biz Support. And I have Evelyn Ivy with, gosh, I forgot the name, Lifestyle CPA. I apologize. It's the joys of going live. My brain goes, what? And it freaks out a little bit. Um, we want to talk about, I brought Evelyn in specifically because she's a CPA that we've done business together. She's my CPA that I use. Very smart, intelligent woman. And one of those people that really loves numbers and digs in deep with numbers. And that's why specifically I wanted to bring you onto this call because we're in a very unique situation. When I say we, I'm specifically talking about business owners, and more specifically as the small business owners, maybe an entrepreneur, maybe you've got a small business with a couple of employees. It's really hard when something so drastic as what we're dealing with right now just cuts into our cash flow. So I wanted to talk, actually have Evelyn talk about what can we do as far as cash flow today to hold on to the money that we have in a smart way. And then two, how do we bridge the gap from where we're at to today to whenever things get quote unquote normal. So Evelyn, thank you for spending some time with me today and talking to everyone out there on this subject.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, if you're a business owner who's been affected by this epidemic we're facing, I would like to send you know, my sympathy because I know it's a hard time. I know some businesses around me have had to completely shut down and figure out ways to just make it through, just till we get back to normal, as Ryan said. So the first thing we need to do is if you're a business that has to have completely shut down, then your first thing is you need to find a way to keep the operations going. And if that's you, later on, I'll talk about some loan programs you could possibly apply for, to help, bridge the gap. And also some tax credits you might be able to apply for also. So even if you have to keep your employees, that way you get a credit. So you're not really coming out of your pocket, but the government is reimbursing you for paying your employees. So if your business if you're not one of those that has to shut down, but you're operating at a less capacity because of this crisis, what you might think of doing is figure out a way to cut expenses. I mean, it's great to have the loan programs, but truth comes, this might be a good time to actually sit down and look at your business and do an analysis to see what really is relevant and what new ways can you grow your business, which is different from what you've been doing before. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't just say, okay, yeah, you can get a loan, but the loan will only take you so far. And who knows how long, there is the crisis of the COVID-19, and there's also going to be economic impact. Who knows how long that's going to last? So we don't even know how long this is going to last. So you have to think of ways to win in the long run.
Right. So besides cutting cost, what about cash flow? Because I think cash flow is one of those words that people use a lot within business, but they don't necessarily always understand it. So can you give some tips on, for business owners? I think part of fear comes from not knowing. And so knowing your cash flow and kind of analyzing, what do I have liquid today? Plus, what do I expect coming in minus expenses? What are some simple ways people can check cash flow and realize that, holy crap, maybe we really are in deep and we need to move now versus, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Because the nice thing about numbers, when you run them correctly, they really don't lie.
That's true. That's true. And that you make a very good point. Speaking about cash flow, you want to look at the revenue you have coming in. You might have very limited, like if you're my clients that have been mostly affected are ones who are in the entertainment and events industry, hotel, those are the ones that are mostly being affected that I've seen. So basically what you want to do is what I've recommended is, yes, cash flow, revenue, income is going to go down, but at the same time, you're not running events. So your expenses have also gone down. So using the loan protection program, you can keep some of your employees on, actually most of them when you get the loan, because it's based on the average times 2.5, which we'll talk about later. So you can use that to keep the employees. So employees is not really taken into calculations because the government's reimbursing you for paying those employees. But what you want to look at is your accounts receivable. If there are people that owe you, it might be a good time to give them a call and say, hey, if you're able to, because if they're not in the same boat as you are, can you pay something? Because they might be in the same boat and they might not be able to pay you now, but it's a good time to call and see what you can collect from your receivables. It's also a good time to look at your expenses, especially your subscription expenses, because there are a lot of subscriptions that I see that people subscribe to and forget all about it and then move on to something better, but forget to cancel the subscription. And they don't know that's still being charged to their account every month. So now is the time to look at the details of your financials, not just looking at the categories, but the details. You want to break it down and say, okay, I have 1,000 a month for dues and subscription. What makes this number? Go through each of them and see if they're still relevant.
Yeah, and I would imagine that would primarily be on like a credit card statement where you have a reoccurring payment happening that you totally forgot about. And how many business owners don't even necessarily look at their credit card statements anymore if they have somebody on staff taking care of that, and they just assume it's always been there, so it must be okay. So I think that's a great idea to really reevaluate that, because $100 here, $100 there,
it adds up.
That adds up quickly.
It adds up quickly. When I get on a new client, one of the things that surprises me, well, I don't know why it should surprise me, is I'll ask, what is this for? It's like, I don't know, it's just always charged to my account. I'm like, you're paying for this. What do you don't know what it's for? Like, can you call and find out what it's for? It's like, it's always been there. It must be something important.
Right.
I'm like, well, are you serious? So, and that's one of, I know this is a side, but that's one of the reasons I don't like complete automation. Mm-hmm. Because complete automation kind of puts you in the black box where you don't really know what's going on, because everything is just automated. Everything is just taken care of. You're not really checking the details. And when things are shifting, you're not seeing it. That's why I like that manual process of when you're manually going through stuff, because that's when it hits you like, okay, what am I doing here? I'm spending way too much in this. I'm eating out too much. I'm doing this too much. I'm not spending enough on this. You can see, when you see the details, it's easier to understand when you see the like when you see the income statement and you see the categories and the amounts associated with them. Now you have more of a meaning to it because you know what makes up that number versus saying, oh, I spend $10 on gas. I'm like, you don't really, it doesn't mean anything to you because you don't even know where that $10 went, So those details really make a lot of difference. So, and going back to your credit card example, you don't even have to go to your credit card statement, because a lot of people have like multiple bank accounts. Everything should fit into your financials, and you should be able to click into any financial software you have to click the details of any account and see what makes up that number in that account. So that's a good way to do that too.
So are you talking about looking at a profit and loss statement?
Like in your QuickBooks? Yeah, no, not the profit and loss statement. In your QuickBooks, go to the profit and loss statement, but rather than just looking at the numbers, the lines, click on the details to see what makes up the number, because that's where you find any expenses that is really not needed at this time.
And we're kind of presupposing at that point that people are actually putting information into the accounting software correctly.
Yes. That's not a problem by itself. But then again, this would be a good time to find out whether or not they're doing it. So
yeah, it's time to really kind of look, because a lot of times it's just like spring cleaning. I kind of imagine you go and you're like, oh, there's this one little window pane that needs to be cleaned, and you notice it and you clean it, and then you're like, oh, well, there's this also, and then, oh my gosh, look underneath the couch, there's all these dust bunnies down there. And next thing you know, it's your whole day you spend cleaning your house. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it was so dirty or dusty. And it's the same thing with financials. If you don't pay attention to it, things can get dirty and dusty really fast.
Very, very good analogy. And this is a great time for spring cleaning, because if your business is slow, you're not making any money. What else do you have to do? Why don't you clean out the house?
Yeah. And I would even say is that if it's something you're not comfortable with, maybe finances make you nervous, or you're like, it's not my cup of tea, find a friend or somebody, because they're looking for something to do. So if you feel comfortable talking to somebody, use Zoom or something, you can screen share. But yeah, spring cleaning is a great time to do the finances. So besides those, kind of the obvious one, cut cost, check and make sure there's no reoccurring invoices or credit card charges, if you will. Is there anything else that maybe you've been talking to business owners that they didn't think of?
The mostly thing is just to make sure that you're not, first of all, with the income, making sure that you're not spending more than you're bringing in.
Mhm.
And the big thing that most people want to talk about the only thing we want to talk about right now is the loans.
Right.
It's just making sure that, taking the loans to, bridge the gap, which I do encourage. If you need the loan, you need the loan. But, I want you to think beyond that and think, because the loan is only going to take you so far, so think beyond that and think of how you can improve your business. Because at the end of the day, if you have, like, it's like putting water into a cup that has a hole on the bottom.
Right.
You can keep filling that cup, but the water is still going to keep coming from the bottom. So if you're not using this time to fix your business, the loan is just going to go into that cup and it's just going to pour out the bottom, and you don't even know where that money went.
Yeah.
So take this time to fix your business. Look at where you have lapses, especially places in your invoicing where maybe you're not collecting as fast as you should, or maybe there are things you can do differently. Maybe you can even improve your services when things get up and about, so your clients actually want to pay you for the services. Or maybe when things come up and about, maybe people don't even want your service the way it is right now because people's mindset have changed. Maybe it's time to start creating, because you have to think not just of the expense portion of it, but you have to also think of the revenue portion of it and what people are going to pay for. Because you might be able to weather the storm, but can you sustain once the storm is over? Because we'll be in a new world when the storm is over.
Right.
But can you even sustain then? And then there'll be no loans to help you then. It will be just you. So.
And it reminds me of some event people that put on workshops and trainings, in-person workshops and training, and they've actually switched to going on Zoom where it's all done remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, we're actually making more money now than we were originally. And that's after having to cancel everything, reschedule everybody. Everybody's fearful, so there's a lot of different moving pieces going on, but they go, by doing it remotely, it actually opened up their audience and they were able to sell more seats. And like you were saying, your expenses go down also now if you're not having to rent out a hotel room, as an example.
Correct. And that's a great example. Great example. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the money. So show me the money. The government's supposed to be giving me money. I haven't received my money. Let's talk about how do we, now that we've cut costs, because that should be like the very first thing, how can we cut costs, increase revenue? If we know there's going to be a deficit, how do we bridge the gap? What's available and what are the tax implications, if any?
Okay, so to bridge the gap there, if you have employees, or if you don't have employees, you're a sole owner of a S corp, you have the payroll protection program that can be used to protect your payroll or you and your employees' payroll. So that is a program you can apply for. You're supposed to apply with your bank, and it's open. It was open. I mean, it's for sole proprietors and independent contractors, supposed to open April 10th. So their applications will be open. So you're not supposed to pay your independent contractors out of the payroll loan, because they can go and get their own loan.
So you're talking like a 1099 type of situation?
Exactly. So if you have a 1099, you can also apply for this loan starting April 10th. But if you can already apply, if you're just a small business owner, you're ready, your application dates is already open. So basically what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to help you pay for payroll, mortgage interest, utilities, just the essentials. But for it to be forgiven, 75% of it has to be for payroll. So that's a great way for you to keep your staff. That way you don't have to lay them off. And it's a good way to keep them in while you guys are planning how to weather the storm. You can keep them on even though they're not producing revenue for you, and use this program. Once you get the loan, you have to pay them, you have to spend the money within 8 weeks. So the money has to be spent within 8 weeks. And then anything not spent has to be paid back.
Okay.
So that the loan there are two parts of the loan. There's the actual loan where it's based on your past 12 months of payroll times 2.5%. That's the loan you can get. So you get the loan,
12-month average, right?
Exactly, average. Yes, thank you. And then once you get the loan, there's another portion of it where you actually have to apply for the forgiveness of it. And the forgiveness is if you have to have used at least 75% of that funds for payroll within the time frame which you were allotted to use the funds. So anything not used, for the intended purposes is paid back at a very low interest rate. So it's kind of still getting a low interest loan, but if you use it according to the program, it's basically just a grant for you because you don't have to pay it back. And that's a great way I mean,
Right.
8 weeks of not having to cover payroll, that's a great break.
Yeah. And that loan is specifically through a bank. So you
That's
can,
correct.
while you can fill out the form online, you
Hmm.
actually have to connect with a bank to actually process the loan.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect.
Correct. Now, the
And then,
economic injury, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say with that loan, as far as I understand, when you're computing your payroll number, it's gross. So it's payroll plus taxes that you might pay. And then also, I believe health insurance is included in that
Health
number.
insurance is included, correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that's included in that gross number?
If you have like employee benefits, like if you have like 401k or
Okay.
things like things employee benefits that you pay directly to for on behalf of your employees. So things you pay on behalf of your employees
Okay.
are
And
included
ideally,
in
the
that number.
bank, whoever your bank representative is going to help you get the right number.
Exactly. And every
On
bank has different calculations. I've never seen like all the applications I've seen from different banks, they're all different for what they're requiring.
Okay. And then as far as next year when we go to pay taxes, my understanding is they're not forgiving the gross amount, but only the net amount that you actually pay the employee. Is that correct as you know it?
I That's not what I understand, but I'll have to look into that.
Okay. And the
Because
government's changing things, it seems like a couple of
yeah,
times a day.
and yes, it's always changing so fast. And by the time I learn something, I've been on webinars on the, but it's just as soon as you get information, it's changing.
Right.
So, but yeah, so you might also want to check out the updated information when you're getting a loan. But even by the time they even doing the loan forgiveness portion, who knows what they'll come up with at that point. But the
Right.
bottom line is the way I understand it, the bank is the final say. They're the ones that, so it doesn't matter what the law says. If the bank says this is what they're going to accept, you're at the mercy of your bank.
Okay.
So you have to understand very well what your bank requires, because they're the ones that'll say, yay, I forgive it, or no, I don't forgive it, because they're the agent.
Oh, you're
So
talking about the actual loan forgiveness part?
yes.
Oh, wow.
So they're the ones that are going to approve the loan. They're the ones that are going to decide if it's forgiven. They're the ones. So basically you have to appease your bank. Whatever they're saying is what you should do.
Okay, that's good to know. And ideally the bank, well, gosh, hopefully the bank would tell you up front if they're going to forgive 75% or not.
Yeah, they'll tell you. They'll tell in the application. They have all that stipulated.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
mean, yeah, every bank seems to be interpreting it a different way. Like I haven't seen two applications that are exactly the same.
Right. Okay.
Each bank has their own application.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, that's kind of a good like asterisk small print to be aware of then as a business owner when you're applying. Okay.
And then the other loan is the economic injury disaster loan. Now that's the 10,000 you were talking about. Now this one you just have to prove that you've been affected by the COVID-19, but you don't have to. This is not a payroll protection. So you apply for the loan. You're supposed to get 10,000, whether or not within 3 days. Within 3 days.
I think it's like in dog years, but reverse, where it's 3 times 7. So it might be 21 days if we're lucky.
Then that 10,000 is forgiven whether or not the loan is approved. And
Right.
that the bank can approve it solely based on your credit score. So this one is a little bit more iffy. So a lot of people I know who've applied for this, they've been rejected. So I haven't even seen anybody who's been approved for this loan.
Oh, people have actually been rejected at this point. That's interesting because I haven't heard anything at all. Like it's been crickets, like nobody's been approved, denied, or anything. And I thought that loan though was straight through the SBA. You're not
Yeah,
actually
it is straight. You can go to the SBA website and fill out the application.
right, but you don't download it and then forward it to the bank, do you?
No. There's an
Okay.
application right on the SBA website. You fill it
Right.
out, you submit it, and you're supposed to get 10,000 within 3 days. Now the specifics of how that's supposed to work, I don't completely understand that yet, but I did hear of somebody who said they were rejected. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
did
haven't
hear
heard
that.
that yet. The latest news that I've heard, and we were talking about this before we went live, is that the original language was up to $10,000, and that language has been changed to $1,000 per employee. and
Mm,
it was supposed to go towards payroll, rent, utilities, and was then going to be forgiven. But I'm like, okay, $1,000 per employee is not going to go very far.
yeah.
So, and from what I've seen on social media, there's been kind of an uproar where people feel like the government is shifting gears quite a bit. So we'll see what happens. And I know I applied, I want to say it's at least 10, 11 days ago. I haven't heard anything. I've received an email. I got my confirmation number, that popped up on the website after I completed it, but I haven't heard anything since then.
Yeah, I know the SBA website crashed recently because
Yeah.
of the load,
Yeah.
application load. So it's a lot. I'm not, give them grace,
Yeah.
it's a lot to process in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Even you as a business owner, you try doing it, it's a lot.
Oh
It
yeah.
really is a lot to process. And
Yeah, because
so,
you figure they went from, I don't know, can't imagine what the percentage is, but when you go from, let's say, a couple thousand, let's say even 10,000 claims a day, as an example, and then COVID hits and 300 million people want to sign up, it's like, how do you shift from 10,000 to 300 million, on a dime? That's difficult, impossible at best.
yeah,
So, okay, good.
that is a
So
lot. Yeah.
besides those two, is there anything else that there was another one, it wasn't
Okay, so there's the employee retention credits.
there you go. Thank you.
So if you don't apply for the loan, you can apply for the employer. So basically how that, it's a payroll credit. So you don't have to pay, you can take 50% up to 10,000 in qualified wages for a qualified employee. So let's say your payroll, your income went down 50% because of this epidemic.
Mhm.
So basically you can be forgiven 50% up to 10K in qualified wages for qualified employees that you keep on due to this epidemic. Even though your income has gone down, you retain the employees, you didn't get the loan, so you get the tax credit. So it's limited to 6.2% employee share of Social Security taxes, so you don't have to pay the Social Security taxes for up to 50%, up to 10K in qualified. Don't you love the way the government
Whatever
phrases
you
there?
just said just went right over. You might as well just went wah, 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 wah. So I guess what I'm curious to know is this money I don't have to spend today, or is it a tax credit that shows up when I file taxes for 2020?
No, it's money you don't have to spend today, because
Okay.
when you're filing your 941, you don't have to pay it, and you get the credit when you file your quarterly payroll taxes. So this is, any excesses can be claimed on your 2020 taxes, but you get it now. You can get an advance on this by filling out a form, and they'll send you the money in advance.
Okay. So this is something, if you have a payroll service, as an example, they should be reaching out to you, I'm assuming, or should business owners reach out to their payroll service?
I think the way it works in QuickBooks, which is what I use, they now have a space where you can enter. They're going to enter, because I did get that email, so they're going to create a space where you can enter that you qualify for the credit, and they'll compute that for you.
Oh, okay.
So if it's automated, I'm not really sure how that automated will work, honestly. I think that's something, I think you might have to contact them just to make sure that they are thinking about that on your behalf.
Right. Okay. I'm going to throw it out there now, is that if once you get access to whatever that changes in QuickBooks, if it's something we could actually do a share screen on a future video, I think that would be helpful for a lot of business owners to understand
Okay.
what this is and how to do it.
Okay, sure.
All right. Wonderful. So cut your cost, increase revenue wherever you can. This is the time to clean the cobwebs. If you haven't looked at your financials, look at those financials. Cash flow is king right now. Cash flow should always be king, I'm assuming, in your business. But right now it's critically important. There are a number of different loans that are available out there. Whether or not you'll actually see any money is yet to be told.
You will,
Oh,
like the Parent Protection Program. I have a couple of my clients already have their money.
oh, do
So
they?
yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm still waiting for my bank to get back to me. I have
Yeah.
not, I've applied, I've sent
Some
them all the
banks, yeah.
documents.
hmm
Yeah, so I'm
Some
waiting
banks will
for the
start
bank to
releasing
get back to
funds.
me.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's encouraging. I'm glad to hear that. Also, I just remembered the $1,200 that the federal government is supposed to give us at some point. That's personal, so that's not business. Do you know if that's going to be taxable at the end of the year, or is it just free money and that's that?
No, so basically it's in your 2020 tax return. If you were overpaid, you'll have to pay the difference. Because so it's going to be based either on your 2018 income if
Right.
you've not filed your 2019, but you filed your 2019 based on your 2019. But obviously income goes up and down and goes up. So let's say in your 20, you got a check
Mhm.
and in 2018, but based on your 2019, well, we're in 2020, right? Based on your 2020 tax return,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
'Cause
didn't
I actually
qualify, then you had to repay it.
Okay. But if you're under in 2019, do you keep the full amount, or are they going to create uh y- are they going to say that that's income and therefore we're going to add it to your wages at the end of
So
the year?
the way credits work is it's computed after taxes. So
Okay.
it will just be that you just paid back. It wouldn't be taxed, but you're just paying back
Right.
the
Okay.
overpayment.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure, because the last thing I want the government to do is go, here's $1,200. And then by the way, at the end of the year, we want $500 back. So
Yeah.
that's good to
As
know.
long as your income level is consistent, you shouldn't have that problem.
Okay, and that's good to know, because I actually read an article where a couple said they lost out on $2,400 because they filed their taxes early in 2019, and his wife had finished college and got a high paying job, where in 2018 they didn't have that income, so they qualified. But in 2019 they didn't qualify, so he's like, oh, we would have gotten that $2,400. But
And
what you're
paid it
saying is
back.
it's ultimately based on your 2019 tax records.
Hmm.
Okay,
Well,
that's good to
ultimately
know.
placed on your 2020, because this is you're going to file 2020 and 2021. So what we're going to file next year.
Right, I thought you were saying that the $1,200 is going to be was the ultimate judgment of, do you get this money, yes or no, is going to be based on your 2019 taxes.
Well, it's going to be based when you file your 2021. Now, I'm not
Okay.
sure. Now, when you say, because when you're filing 2021, it will be based on 2020. I have to check to make
Okay.
sure that it's not really based on, they're not going to go back to 2019.
All right.
Now, that's something I need to check.
Okay. All right. And by the time we figure it all out, they're going to change it anyway. So it'll be.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. So that's a wealth of information. I really appreciate that, Evelyn. Is there any kind of like departing words or something else that
Yeah.
we
The
should
only
cover?
other thing, which I'll say as a last resort, if you just absolutely need more money than what we've talked about, is you can go into your 401k.
Ah, that's right.
Only do this if you absolutely need more money. Don't do it, because I mean, that is for your retirement. And you
Right.
can take out up to 100K without being penalized, because normally you're penalized 10% for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can take it out without that 10% extra taxes. So that's a positive. If you want to find creative ways to pay your employees, you can pay their student loans up to 5,250 tax-free. So basically that's a tax deduction to you, and you don't have to pay tax on that money. In the past, it had to be added to wages, but now it's tax-free to you. So that's a creative way you can actually pay your employees for for being with you through all this craziness. And if you
Right.
want to reward them and pay their student loan, and you get a
Okay.
tax break for that.
All right. And then I know some, like my insurance policy is, I don't know what the name of it is, but my life insurance policy, I can actually borrow money against it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a low interest loan up to however much money I have in my account, essentially, I can borrow against. So there are other opportunities. On the 401k, does any of that money have to be repaid, or is it you can just withdraw it and you won't
I
get
mean, it's
penalized?
your money, so that's between you and the.
Right. Okay. I just didn't know if it
I
was
mean,
kind of like the government says, but ultimately we want you to put the money back in. They don't
no,
care.
that's between you and
Okay.
your 401k, wherever you use.
Right.
I mean, you have the agreement with them. The government is just not going to penalize you for doing it.
Okay. All
So
right.
technically, the way those loans work is it's your money. You technically can pay it as you go, but if you don't pay it, it just takes away from the payout
The
at
value.
the final payout. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Good to know. Anything else we should know about?
I think we've covered a lot, the bulk of it. I'll just like to say, don't give up, stay in the fight. Running a business has never been easy. Now is the time to be creative.
Yeah.
I don't want your mind to get fixated on free money because it limits the ways you can think. If you need that to help you bridge the gap, I'm not saying don't take it. I'm saying by all means use, whatever means, not whatever means, legal means. How are we going to rob a bank?
There's actually a
She
guy,
said whatever means.
an elderly gentleman did this. This was years ago. He did not have health insurance and he needed some hospital care. So he had a gun and he robbed a bank for $1. So he was really feeling guilty about this.
He robbed a bank for $1.
He robbed a bank for $1 because he wanted to be put in prison so that he could get health services.
Oh my goodness.
And then the real irony in all of this is the judge ended up throwing the case out. So yeah, people do crazy things in crazy times. So yes, but it's kind of ultimately focus on what it is that you want, right? What is it that you want in life? And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but so many people are in a different way of thinking. They're in a different mindset. And it's a great time to not assume that everybody's thinking the same. And this is a great time to change, try some different things. Come Saturday, I'm going to do a mohawk. Because I haven't had a haircut in so long. I feel like a chia pet. And I'm like, I want to do, and then the food bakes are struggling. So I'm going to try and get an online thing going where men and women do a mohawk. And then we'll donate some money to the food bank. So I'm going to do a live thing on Facebook on Saturday and shave my head.
Good.
So feel free to join me.
I want to see you after that. I'll be interested to see.
So I don't know how long I'll keep it, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm open to change. So anyway, all right, wonderful. For those that are interested in learning more about you, we have your business name. It's down right by your name in the bottom left-hand corner, Lifestyle CPA. Where's the best place to find you online, Evelyn?
LifestyleCPA.com.
All right, wonderful. And anything else you'd like to say before we head off?
Yeah.
And
don't come from a position of fear. Think different. Apple.
Yeah. And
Think
we'll get through
differently.
this. I mean, it's one of those things where I think sometimes people feel like, I'm afraid this is all happening to me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How, all those things. Totally understand. And that's completely human. Just realize that there are millions and millions of people that are going through the same thing. So you are literally not alone. It's a great time to reach out to friends, to family, even if it's just expressing how you're feeling so that you can realize that you're not alone in this. And I know locally in Sonoma County where I'm at, we have so many new mastermind groups coming together. Restaurants are banding together, finding unique ways to promote their business and service people. And it's really beautiful. Even the NLP training that I do that we've always done in person, it's all virtual and it's going so much better than anybody ever thought. And it's kind of like, this awakening that there are different ways of living life.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, Evelyn. Thank you again for joining me today, sharing your wealth of information. Again, you can find more about Evelyn at lifestylecpa.com. With that, I bid you adieu.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.